Our law enforcement officers were there doing a targeted operation against an individual who was in this country illegally and had a criminal conviction for domestic assault with intent to do bodily harm and other convictions as well. This individual went and impeded their law enforcement operations, attacked those officers, had a weapon on him and multiple dozens of rounds of ammunition, wishing to inflict harm on these officers coming brandishing like that and impeding their work that they were doing.
Hey guys, my name is Modi and you are welcome back to Modi Speaks. So today we have another situation of play stupid games and win stupid prizes. Another radical liberal out to harass and impede border patrol officers in their duties, but learns that it is best not to play with fire. I'm talking about the fatal shooting of Alex Jeffrey Pretti in Minneapolis on January 24th, 2026, just a few days ago. The left is calling it murder, painting this guy as some saintly nurse gunned down in cold blood by ICE. But is that what it actually is? First and foremost, guys, this is a tragic incident, but also an entirely justified use of force by ICE or Border Patrol agents doing their freaking job in a hostile environment. Alex Pretti put himself in harm's way, armed and aggressive, interfering with federal operations to deport illegal immigrants. He asked for trouble, and sadly, he found it. We'll break down the facts, the video, why America should even ramp up deportations now, and why these anti-ICE protests are nothing but dangerous anarchy. So we know that we are in the second Trump administration, and thank God for that. President Trump is finally cracking down on the border crisis that Biden and Harris let fester for years. Operation Metro Surge, that is the real deal. Sweeping the streets of sanctuary cities like Minneapolis to round up and deport illegal immigrants who are draining American resources, committing crimes and undermining American sovereignty. Minneapolis has been ground zero for this push, and for good reason. The city, run by radical leftists like Governor Tim Walz, who has been more interested in virtue signaling than security, has become a magnet for illegals. We are talking about federal agents hitting the streets to enforce the law, detaining people who have overstayed visas, crossed illegally or worse. But instead of letting them do their job, we've got mobs of protesters showing up, harassing these officers and turning routine operations into powder kegs. And that brings us to Alex Pretti, a 37-year-old ICU nurse at a VA hospital. Yeah, he was a US citizen with a permit to carry a firearm. Sounds respectable on paper, right? But on that fateful day, Saturday morning, around 9:05 a.m. on Nicollet Avenue, he wasn't at work saving vets. No, he left his house strapped with a loaded 9mm semi-automatic handgun and decided to play hero or vigilante by confronting federal agents in the middle of an enforcement action. Why the heck is a full-grown man abandoning his responsibilities to march out and disrupt ICE? Why? These agents are protecting American communities from the flood of illegal aliens who are bringing drugs, crime, and economic strain. Pretti wasn't an illegal himself, but by showing up armed and aggressive, he became part of the problem. Now, I support the Second Amendment, and if I had the opportunity, I would carry arms myself, but there is a time and place for carrying arms. Now, confronting armed feds during a high-stakes operation, that is not exercising rights. That is begging for disaster. I gotta take a look at some of the videos that captures this incident, and for your information, I have watched a lot of the footage frame by frame, and while the left is crying police brutality, a clear-eyed look shows agents reacting to a real threat in a split-second decision. And no, it is not pretty. Chaos never is, but it is justified self-defense, at least in my opinion. The footage starts about 2 minutes before the shots. Pretti is in the streets, arguing heatedly with the officers, filming with his phone like every wannabe activist these days. He is not just observing, he is in their faces, directing traffic, getting pushy. An officer shoves him back, standard crowd control when somebody is interfering in the duties of the officers. Then a woman gets involved and things escalate. More pushes, chemical spray, probably pepper spray to subdue the crowd. Then we get to the critical part, okay, where we see officers drag Pretti to the ground in a struggle. One reaches in and yanks a gun from Pretti's waistband, a loaded semi-automatic, guys. DHS confirmed this gun. Now he resisted disarmament violently. About 1 second later, bam, the first shot rang out. Now, some people are whining that since the gun has already been removed, why shoot him? But come on, in the heat of the moment, with a lot of resisting, the suspect has just been disarmed, but could still grab a gun or even have another gun stashed on him. Agents cannot take chances. Yes, Alex Pretti was on the ground, but he kept fighting like hell. These guys are trained to neutralize threats, not play party cake. He approached officers with a loaded gun. Anything could have happened. He could have turned it on them, shot innocent people, or even escalated the mob. The officers didn't wait to find out what could have happened. They took him out before he acted irrationally. That is not murder. That is protecting lives, including their own lives. And I'm not only the one who sees this. Take a listen to what this guy said.
It was a legally justified use of defensive force. I mean, whether ICE should de-escalate, that's a political question, right? That's not my area of expertise. But whether this particular shooting was justified or not, the legal question is, did the officers who fired the shot have a reasonable perception that Pretti was presenting as an imminent unlawful threat of deadly force harm? And a prosecutor would have to disprove that beyond any reasonable doubt. And what facts do we have here? We have the ICE officers observing Pretti committing a violent felony on another ICE officer. He's non-compliant with arrest.
What specifically?
Well, when he lays hands on the first ICE officer, that's a federal felony. That's good for 8 years in federal prison. He doesn't have to cause injury. He just has to make contact, and it's an 8-year federal felony. So he's just committed a violent, forcible felony on an ICE officer. They go to make his arrest. He's not compliant. They hear shouts of gun, gun, gun. Then the non-compliant Pretti brings his hand into view with an object in his hand. That's going to get you shot in that kind of tumultuous, chaotic fracas about 99 times out of 100. Because the officers, keep in mind, they don't have to be correct in their perception of a threat. They have to have a reasonable perception. That doesn't mean correct. That doesn't mean optimal. That doesn't mean best case. It means reasoned. They were applying their powers of reason to the things they were seeing presented to them in the totality of the circumstances. They're not required to make perfect decisions in self-defense. They're required to make reasonable decisions in self-defense. And again, a prosecutor would have to disprove that beyond any reasonable doubt. The only person responsible for the death of Alex Pretti is Alex Pretti.
So guys, I'm not happy this person lost his life, but the truth is, he asked for it. Pretti asked for it by inserting himself into a volatile situation, armed and ready for confrontation. These ICE and Border Patrol heroes are out there every day, facing down liberal mobs egged on by leftist agitators, all while trying to deport illegals who shouldn't be in their country in the first place. Now, Pretti was a lawful gun owner. That is great. Exercise your rights responsibly. But leaving your house to disrupt federal operations, I wouldn't call that patriotism. I would call it aiding and abating chaos. These protests are not peaceful. They are organized disruptions designed to intimidate agents and let illegals slip away. I'm all for combing the streets, capturing illegals and shipping them back where they came from. No amnesty, no excuses. If people like Pretti stay home instead of playing cowboy, tragedies like this would not happen to them. The left is screaming overreach, overreach because of border patrols, but they still are the ones who are paying their loony supporters to march out in droves and harass officers doing their jobs. They are the ones getting paid protesters to cause chaos. But guess what? When the left ramps up resistance, the government ramps up enforcement too. So don't blame the enforcers. Blame the resistors. Pretti forgot that actions have consequences. He chose to approach, armed, resist, and escalate. Agents had split seconds to decide better him than them. This incident exposes the rot in sanctuary cities. Minnesota's governor Tim Walz calls DHS statements nonsense, but he is the one enabling this mess. Protests are sparking from liberal spaces with calls to pull agents out, but that is what they want. That is the goal in radicalizing people like Pretti to put their lives in the line by trying to harass ICE officers when they are doing their jobs. So don't give them what they want. Don't allow them to, withdraw ICE from these sanctuary cities. Don't allow them to flood illegals into your country. If anything, you need more surges now. You need more deportations. You need to ramp up, okay? Illegals cost America billions in welfare, hospitals, schools, while Americans like Pretti's vet patients suffer. So I say, deport them all. No mass marches disrupting justice. If you are against that, then you are against America. Pretti's death is a wake-up call, and it should be a wake-up call for you to stay out of the way or face the music. His death was tragic, I understand, but it was completely avoidable. He could have avoided this tragedy by simply staying home and allowing border patrol agents to do their jobs. So, I called it. It is justified.